All right, let's do this. So check it out. Here we have neurobics. Neurobics! You know, during gravity method colon hydrotherapy, your colon gets a workout. During neurobics, your brain gets a workout. And that's what we're talking about today. How can you actually functionally improve, right, the different neurological firings in your brain? All right, let's see what we have in store. All right, so first up, our desire, our intention for this entire thing. Why would you work out your brain? Heavens. Well, to balance the hemispheres of your brain, right? This is our first starting intention, all right? We want to do this because it will help to avoid or reverse brain disorders by increasing neuroplasticity. And the data shows that 1 out of every 2 people, 50% of people have brain ailments by the time they reach 85. So we're thinking longevity, long into your future. 1/3 of people, 33%, already have some form of neurological degeneration by the age of 65. Right? For some of you, that's not so far off. So to do that, we have to think and realize what the right side and left side of the brain is. So again, this is familiar to you, just reviewing it so that you have it here. Of course, our left side is going to be spoken, written language, sequencing, all of those things that have to do with organization, right? Word analysis, filling out forms, numbers, letters. It's very analytical, logical, and abstract. Whereas the right side of the brain is non-verbal communication. So it could be music or images. And so you see like Virgo versus Pisces, drawing, construction, the tones of your voice, creativity, intuition, spatial relationships, faces. So if you remember faces or not, things like that are actually right side of the brain. And the right side thinks in the present, the left side thinks in the past and the future. And so there's a relationship there as well with the abilities of the prefrontal cortex. So then those are just the hemispheres of the brain. When we get into the different brain parts, which you guys had a lot of last week, we'll review them here because repetition is the key to learning. We see that the frontal lobe, so it's like here, it's like as if I'm going this way. The frontal lobe here is in green. And then we have the parietal lobe here. We have the temporal lobes on either side, right? We have the occipital lobe in the back. That's the occiput or the occipital ridge right there. Really great place to hold if you're ever doing body work. We'll learn all of this in in-person retreat. The cerebellum, right there. And then, of course, the thalamus and all of the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, many other little parts of the brain. For now, these are really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are really the ones to know. When we get into what happens in parts of the brain, now we have this map of this gorgeous individual who's shown us in the parietal lobe. This is where sensations, language, perception, body awareness, attention, occipital lobe, vision, and perception, right, comes from all the way back there. This you might have heard of before, Wernicke's area. This is where language comprehension comes from. Right. The cerebellum down here is posture, balance, coordination, and movement. And so you can start to see where we're going with neuroepigenetics or neurobics, where we are going to be working out these parts of the brain. So at the top, we have motor area. So this is control of our voluntary muscles. It's that orange there. Sensory area is also in the parietal lobe. The frontal lobe itself has to do with movement, problem solving, concentration, thinking. This is where our personality comes from, our behavior, our mood, right? This is what makes us uniquely human. There's a speech area, Broca's area. Temporal lobe has to do with hearing, right? And as we saw with Wernicke's area of the temporal lobe, language learning and memory. And then finally the brain stem, which is consciousness itself, breathing, heart rate. So this is the connection into all those cranial nerves that we learned about just a few days ago. All right, so now breaking it down and looking at the neurobics that we can do in each part of the body. Super important when we talk about the frontal cortex, the prefrontal cortex, frontal cortex, same thing. We look at activities that can help to strengthen or stimulate the neurogenesis, right? The laying down of new nervous system tissue, the increasing the use of that area, literally making you smarter, not only in an intellectual way, but in a spatial way. This is what neurobics is for. Meditation, who would have thought, right? One of my favorite and most important, I find, meditations is the third eye meditation, right? So the third eye, Agna Chakra, it's this point of intuition right here on the forehead. And what you can do, oh, look at that. What you can do is, somehow Andy doesn't know how to use slides always. At least I'm consistent in being a mess with slides. So with that, you can close your eyes. Do this with me as you giggle at me. Roll your eyeballs inward and upward to focus upon your third eye. And it might hurt the first few times you do it, but literally roll your eyeballs inward and upward to focus on the third eye, this point between the eyebrows. Start to notice the sensation between the skin and the skull. I think we've talked about this before because this can also balance out the secretion of serotonin and melatonin. So what if you did this for 5 minutes every day? If you're, you know, stuck in traffic or sitting on a subway, or when you get up or before you eat food, can be a good marker. After exercise, eyeballs roll in and up. Focus upon the point between the eyebrows. Feel the sensations there. Yeah, did you get it? You can slowly open your eyes when you're ready. So third eye meditation can be super powerful to increasing your frontal cortex activity. Yeah. And any other kind of meditation can be too, unless you're kind of like just really miss the mark and it's not working. Right? You don't feel calmer. In general, any kind of empathy, stimulating of empathy is going to be good. So that can be actually watching movies, right? If you get like super affected by movies, this is prefrontal cortex. Deep conversation that hopefully maybe involves vulnerability, like that ability to be uniquely human is what brings you into strengthening neurogenesis and this prefrontal cortex area. And a really good question that you can use to help to make sure that the prefrontal cortex is active is asking, and then what? Right? And so this is going to determine whether you're stressed and you're responding from trigger or whether you're calm, right? Oh God, I hate this. I'm going to send the message, blah, 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 blah. Ask yourself, and then what, right? If you can, like, I'm going to say trigger, but then there's too much trigger there. But if you can expect from yourself or elucidate a thought into the future outside of the present moment, then you can ensure that you are functioning indeed from forebrain rather than high brain, from not stress response, but calm, right? Empathy, awareness, rather than from trigger, stress response, flight or fight. You know? So that question, and then what? Right? So when you want to do something out of trigger, ask yourself, and then what? Right? And this is a really good way to regulate. All right, so our temporal lobes, here we go. Look at this, the two hemispheres of the brain, gorgeous. And we're going to see them come over to the side. You'll see on your left and right side that the temporal lobes right there. So again, as we said, they're involved in memory and language. Learning new languages can be wonderful. Different memory activities can be wonderful for them. So this is like playing a memory game I used to play, I remember, with my grandmother. Where you flip over the cards, right? And you remember what was there. A really good game that I know that they use to train high intelligence forces is you'll have 20 items on a table. You'll have to look at the table, right? Look around, and then you'll turn around after 10 seconds of looking at the table. They'll take one item away or they'll add one item. You turn back around and they'll say, what's gone, right? And so that kind of thing where you can just like really trigger your memory, learn to communicate things differently, learning new vocabulary, things like this will really help to improve innervation in the temporal lobes, as well as synaptic activity, the firing of one neuron to the other. All right, so now here we are at the basal ganglia, the two hemispheres, and there we have it, the basal ganglia. Well, aren't they pretty? Could have earrings that look like that. So they are responsible for relaxation, deep breathing, or shall I say relaxation and deep breathing help the basal ganglia thrive. Yeah. And they're responsible for bringing oxygen into the body and the brain. And so that hand warming exercise that I showed you guys on Tuesday, right, super good for the basal ganglia, because it's going to give that sense of calm, right? It's also going to give that maybe delta wave state, and not as well as this and this. You remember them? Have you been practicing them? All right, let's see what's next. The limbic system. So the limbic system here is featured in the central area. And of course, we know that this is when we are super stressed, limbic is firing like crazy, reptile brain, right? So what we want to do is get out of stress's way, right? So, hey, don't watch a horror film, right? Don't watch that crime series. Whatever you can do to not put yourself through that experience, because you already got enough of it outside of you. Putting your legs up the wall, Viparita Karani, you know, this is a favorite of mine, super, super important. It's going to calm the nervous system faster than anything else I've ever found. Self-monitor your thoughts and your belief systems, right? So a really good one, especially when we get into deeper stuff, again, avoidant attachment or even anxious attachment. Ask yourself, is that true? Right? Where's my evidence supporting that? Is that true? Right? Or ask the person if it's interrelational. And then that's what can really help to self-monitor your thoughts and belief systems. So gratitude breaks you out of limbic overdrive, right? So if you're stressed, if you're triggered, if you're just like, immediately stop and do 15 or 20 things that you're grateful for right now. I'm grateful for the fresh air. I'm grateful for the green all around. I'm grateful to be in the tropics. I'm grateful to have spring water right here. I'm grateful to have an opportunity to share with you. I'm grateful for all of the things, right? Rapid fire, rapid fire, rapid fire, so that you can't think of anything else. And you're refocusing upon things that are, right, non-threatening, things that are safe, things that you want, right? It's like focus on what you want rather than what you don't want. All right. And then finally, create intentions, visions, and goals for your life. This will really help to strengthen the limbic system, because it will give you a framework to exist in, rather than you being in the, you know, the deep unknown in an unsafe environment. All right, so our parietal lobe is up next. So the parietal lobe, which you're seeing come out here in the hemispheres of the brain, the parietal lobe, right up there. It is improved or strengthened through juggling, through painting, through anything having to do with organizing space. You don't want to see my room. Doing things with your eyes closed can also help to strengthen the parietal lobe. And this can be, if you get up in the middle of the night, this would have many uses, because you also wouldn't let light in, right? Keep your eyes closed and you want to go to the bathroom. You know, more or less inside of you subconsciously how many steps it takes to get out of your bed, to get to the door, to the bathroom, to this, to that. You can feel around, right? Your kinesthetic sense of awareness of where things are might help. But in general, maybe you want to write with your eyes closed. That can be really fun. Maybe you want to reach for your water bottle. Good aim. And do it with your eyes closed. There's a number of things that you could do with your eyes closed. But this kind of improvement of your kinesthetic or spatial awareness is what will happen. And yeah. Anything, you know, that's going to require exactitude. So it's a lot of sports, a lot of hand sports, something like field hockey, right? or any kind of hockey, I guess. You have to have that spatial awareness, kicking balls, things like this. They'll really help to strengthen the parietal lobe. Next up is the cerebellum. Here we have her up here. It has to be improved through anything having to do with coordination. All right. So below the occipital lobe, the cerebellum sits and really aids in making sure that we can, like, you know, be a human and not be a clumsy 16-year-old or someone who's drunk. All right. So anything that requires coordination, not dissimilar to what we talked about before, that was more spatial awareness of like hitting a ball. Baseball would be another good one. But this is just coordination in general. So even to run, you know, you have to be somewhat coordinated to know that your next foot will come on the floor. Dancing would be a great one, right? To strengthen the cerebellum. It's like you have to be there on beat. There's something that you're doing. Yeah. Anything that's going to involve your hands and dexterity. So knitting, sewing, not so much like baking or kneading bread, because that doesn't really need a lot of dexterity. But like, imagine if you had to paint, calligraphy, right? Or write really evenly. Taking a knot out of a necklace, right? You can see what's been in my life lately. This is going to require a tremendous amount of dexterity, which will improve innervation to the cerebellum. So table tennis is a good one. Yeah. Ping pong, also known as, and handwriting, as I said. Yeah. So neurobics are novel activities in general. And so there are some things that will really help. And this will also help the cerebellum, and you'll see different of these exercises are going to strengthen all of the different brain regions that we talked about. But doing anything in a non-habitual way, a novel activity, will help to strengthen your brain overall. For example, if you always, you know, you sit in the seat, the same seat every time in a classroom or a doctor's office or on a train, right? Switch it up, right? Or at the dinner table, switch your seats. That's going to help your brain perceive in a new way. Standing balancing tools, you can use them. This is a little picture of a little boy doing something as a game, or you can use it at your desk. They have little bubbles where you're standing on and you constantly have to recalibrate, right? Balancing on one foot, again, like Vrikshasana, tree pose in yoga, can really help the entire brain, right? Where it's spatial coordination, awareness, internal stability, things like walking backwards, right? This is one that really mixes you up, but you can actually, just like anything else, improve through practice. Ambidexterity. So, hey, I'm right-handed. I'm gonna write with my left hand today. I'll look like I'm in 3rd grade. That's fine, no problem, right? And then essential oils again, so different fragrances. This can also be different flowers, but exposing yourself to new neural input, again, novel activities overall are the biggest neurobic. So I would also add to this list things like travel, exposing yourself to situations, people, places, languages that you've never seen before, foods, right? Just things that are new are going to help your brain continuously grow. All right, so there we have it. I hope you guys enjoy this neurobics class and that you use it to continue to strengthen your brain.